And welcome back again, yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander of Keeping It Honest. I love this story coming up. Trying to get everything together here. We are on a lot now because, technology is crazy. But there's a story. Tim Waltz, he's the vice presidential candidate, Democratic, for Kamala. But there's a story now, and I've talked a little bit about it in certain clips. He was in the military for years, 22, 24 years reserve, and he decided to enlist for 4 years. But this is the interesting part. When he ran for Congress, was he still in the military? Did he drop out to run for Congress? Did he drop out because they were going to a war zone? That's what the controversy is kind of about now. So I've talked about it a little bit. Megyn Kelly, I love Megyn Kelly, has talked about it a lot. And I've gotten a couple guests from Megyn Kelly to be on my show. So I would love to get this person coming up to be on my show too. But Megyn Kelly is going to have on the show somebody who was with Tim. And he has a different side to say. As far as him being a war hero, as far as him maybe not being there when people needed him. You're watching Keeping It Honest. You let me know what you think about this too. 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. You can email me, parkerman2011@gmail.com, parkerman2011@gmail.com. We do things with a Parker twist. This is a Parker twist. So she has a guy on her show that was in the military with Tim Waltz, and he feels that he's kind of lying to the American people as far as, what he did while he was in the military. This is going to be interesting. We're going to talk about it as he's talking. But we thank Megyn Kelly for this story.
So you served with Mr. Walls in the same unit. Is that right?
I was in the same battalion in 2004, and then I got promoted into the division artillery, actually, the Vardy. And then he stayed in one of the 125 and was selected to be the acting command sergeant major at that time.
So he was an acting commander sergeant major at that time. And so him and other people have talked about, well, when they were deployed overseas, he decided to kind of drop out. So he's saying his term ended after the 4 years. They're saying he had a 5 or 6 year plan. But to me, I don't know, because I've never been military, can you drop out? I don't know. But let's hear his side.
So okay. we were together in the Europe deployment that we did in 03 and 04.
Okay, right. Both of you were overseas in Europe, not in Iraq or Afghanistan as of that time. But then in early 2005, my understanding is your unit got notified that it was going to be deployed to Iraq.
So back then, 2005, Tim was still in the military, and they got information they were about to be deployed to Iraq. And what did Tim do?
Correct. It got a warning order, which basically gets everybody prepared that, hey, this is coming. Get your will in order. Let your family know. Pack your bags. All that type of stuff. We're going to be training. Just kind of prepares you to get in the mindset that, yep, you're going to be going to war, or wherever you're going in your deployment.
And he at that time was the command sergeant major of the unit.
He was acting is kind of what we call it. You're conditionally promoted at that point. When you receive the rank, if you don't have the Sergeant Major's Academy completed, then you are conditionally promoted on the condition that you pass those requirements. Which number one is attending and passing the United States Army Sergeant Major's Academy, which is in Fort Bliss, Texas. And then the other one is staying in the military for 2 years after they've invested all that money in your education.
So he's commander now, and from what I gathered, he's supposed to stay in for 2 more years.
And for the record, he did neither of those things. But
no,
let's start with the Iraq deployment, because the unit, including Mr. Walls, gets the notification that you're about to be deployed to Iraq in 2005, when it was rough over there. And
correct.
He had, we know from the reporting by Alpha News, he had in 2001 signed a commitment to stay for another 6 years. He reenlisted for another 6 years, which would have put his departure date at 2007 from the National Guard.
Correct.
Instead, he left. He retired before your unit got deployed.
So I didn't know you can retire. If you enlist, can you retire? That's interesting. So he re-enlisted for 4 years. Technically, it's supposed to have been 6 years, but he retired with a year or two to go to run for Congress. That's what he has said. He retired. But his men are saying he deserted them.
And
correct.
When this controversy came up, when he first ran for office, he tried to say, I only re-enlisted for 4 years, which would have taken him to 2005 and still would have not excused him leaving before the deployment. It still was too early. But the truth is, it was 6 years. He should have been there through 2007, according to Alpha News, which got its hands on the National Guard documents, in particular,
correct.
his report of separation and military service form, showing he re-enlisted for 6 years with his service obligation being complete on September 18th, 2007. I want to tell the audience, when Alpha News reached out to Walz to clarify the inconsistencies between his story and the official documents they had obtained, the campaign, quote, would not answer questions on the duration of Walz's re-enlistment. So let's go back to you.
So that's interesting. So that news organization tried to get in contact with Walz's people. And again, I always hate no comment when you're trying to get together with somebody. Just answer it. Did he re-enlist for 4 years or did he re-enlist for 6 years? This controversy, the organization, the media organization, they did this story back in the early 2000s. And now, since Walz is the vice presidential candidate, they've brought the story back out again. So it's going to be interesting whenever the debate is happening with J.D. Vance, who also was in the military. And if they find out this is legitimate, even if it's not legitimate, they're going to grill him on this and make him talk, because he doesn't talk to the press. J.D. Vance is not going to let this slide. He's going to ask, why doesn't the press ask him about his military record and maybe deserting his squad? And since J.D. Vance is a military person, and we talk about America first, some way or another, Walz is going to have to address this. But right now, Megyn Kelly is.
It's 2005. Instead of going with the unit and being the command sergeant major in Iraq, he quits. And what happens next to you and the other guys you're serving with?
Well, in the fall of 2004, just stepping back a little bit, when the selection process was done, I was selected to a position in Divardi, which is Division Artillery, which is, he was selected into one of the 125 Field Artillery Battalion, which I was a member. We were both first sergeants together. So, I went one way. I went to Divardi to Division. He stayed in the 125, and then when the warning order came out, the 125 ended up being part of the 1st Brigade. So they were the ones that were notified that they were going to war. And I was at Division, and Division wasn't notified. So I was kind of like, well, it must not be my time. I'm in Division. I'm here. I'm just going to keep working. And, Division gets activated, I'll go. But that's what happened with that at that point. So I wasn't in the 125 at that point, one of the 125 Field Artillery, and he was. So when 05 rolled around, he got notified. I mean, they all knew what was going to happen. I mean, it was right on the documents. It was going to be Iraq. the warning order was out there from March until May, and then May rolled around, and the rumor came out across the state that he had quit, turned his stuff in, and slithered down the steps out of the armory and had quit and retired. And everybody was in shock because senior NCOs don't do that. I mean, that you basically train for years and years. You're with your soldiers. Your soldiers are literally like your kids almost. I mean, you've watched them grow up. You've helped them shoot guns and learn how to do the radio stuff, and fix wounds if you can, and different things. And then all of a sudden, when it's time to go do your thing with that, you quit. I mean, that just absolutely was just disgusting. People were like, well, what is he, a coward, whatever. Nobody knew what the answer was. And I pretty much knew, well, I'll probably get the call because I'm a 13 Bravo artillery guy. And, then I got the call about not quite a month later. I mean, it was a few weeks, and then my colonel called, and it was just weird. I was out in one of my farm fields, and I was talking to him, and he's like, well, we're asking you to go, and then there was a horseshoe laid on the ground, and I always call it my lucky horseshoe, but other people said, how can you say that's lucky? You went to war. And it was like, well, I got to serve my country in a greater capacity, and I got to help protect my soldiers and do whatever I could to make the deployment as good as it could be, because it was, like you said, it was a tough time in the country then.
So that is really interesting. So I wonder, did Waltz tell his squad that he was leaving, and did he tell them why he was leaving? So in this guy's eyes, in some people's eyes, Waltz looked like a coward, and maybe it was presentation. I can't wait to hear how Waltz is going to talk about that, because I said he's going to eventually get grilled. Maybe not by the media, the regular media, but maybe by, streaming and everything. I would love to get this guy on my show who's talking to Megyn Kelly now, because some people from her show I've had come on my show. But I would love to hear his side and ask maybe even some of the questions that Megyn hasn't asked. Does he think, the one on the screen, does he think that, vice presidential candidate Tim Waltz was a coward? Or did he think he should have just ended it in a better way to his men? You're watching Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander.
So you went, and how long was the unit deployed for?
We were gone all the way until July of 2007. So when we started it was 22 months total. We had a 6-month train up at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, and then we ended up, we're supposed to be a year in country. We're supposed to be an 18 months deployment, but then all the sectarian violence started in 06, late 06, and in January of 7, and we got extended to help out. We were involved in the surge basically, but we were already in country, so they just kept us in place and moved more soldiers in to try to quell the violence.
So I wonder, so at that time they had to go, was it really, I think he's saying that it was rough out there. So that would have made 2004, 5, something like that. That would have made Waltz, he's 60 now. So that would have made him probably about 39, 40, something like that.
Can you just give us a feel for how rough that time was? I remember covering it as a reporter. In 2006 was when the beheadings started. It just started to get very, very dark, even darker than you'd expect for war. You were there. So were the men who had served under him. He was supposed to be there, according to these documents. What was it like for you guys?
Well, when I got home, I kind of looked at some of our ground squirrels running around, and they're always on the alert. They're looking for a hawk to fly down or a badger to dig them out of the hole. I mean, you're always think you're going to die. That's about what it boils down. I mean, we didn't know really that we were going to get out of there until we got on the last Chinook to fly out, and even then, there was stuff flying in the air at us, chasing us out of country almost. I mean, it was really a trying time, and they are a thinking enemy. I mean, Iran was behind all of the crap that was shot at us. I mean, it was from the explosive form projectiles to the mortars to the Katyusha rockets to the training of the people that went across the border and then came back and then used all those techniques, and procedures against us. I mean, they literally were the people behind the scenes in our area. We were Shiite areas, so they were the the people killing us were the proxies of Iran. And when Donald Trump got rid of Salami or whatever his name was, he was the architect of all the people in my area that died. I mean, he has 3,000 people on his head, I think. But it was a rough time. I mean, we did what we could and kept everybody safe as much as we could. We drug out some old 120 millimeter mortars and shot them back at them, and kind of got them. They didn't like getting shot at. I'll tell you that much. That kind of put them on their toes. But
so I wonder too, was it so bad that they were there and had to kill some people? Did Waltz's, I guess, company of men, his squad that he would have been in, would they have killed people, or did they kill people, or were there some of even their members that were close to getting killed? It's a serious position that these guys were in, and from what I gathered, they just felt that Waltz, for whatever reason, let them down and left them.
I'll bet. I know that you wrote in October of 18 on Facebook, you've been trying to raise this issue. I should point out, you've been trying to raise this issue since he first ran for Congress. Once he ran for governor, you tried to tell the media in Minnesota, you need to know the truth about him.
So that's interesting. So he's been trying to do this for over 6 years. He's been trying to tell the truth. He put stuff out there to the media. Media's ignored it. Now he's coming on shows. He's on Megyn Kelly's. Hopefully he'll be able to be on Keeping It Honest.
That he left us. He quit. And almost nobody picked up the story. The papers that you sent your letter to wound up endorsing him, like the Star Tribune, and ignoring you. And so this is the first time you're really getting, I think, a national audience to say what you say is the truth about Governor Walz, and Alpha News confirms. You posted something in 2018 when he ran for governor, along with two others, with another retired Army Command Sergeant Major who is named Paul Herr. And before posting the letter, you wrote a message on why you wanted to bring this story out. It reads in part as follows. On 9/11, as I lowered the flags to half-staff at the Brewster Veterans Memorial, I gazed at the bronze likeness of Sergeant Kyle Miller, who was killed in action in Iraq on June 29th, 2006, at age 19 while serving in the 125th Field Artillery Battalion. I wondered what that patriot thought that day in 2001, a teenager in school, and I wondered what all the other patriots who had joined the service after 9/11 thought on that day. When they joined, we were at war, which we still are, and getting the call to go is probably going to happen. What if everybody said, sorry, I've got better things to do? We are the land of the free because of the brave. We are not the land of the free because of those who ran. The citizens of the state of Minnesota deserve to hear this side of the story, not just a slithery politician's version of what he wants people to hear.
So I don't think he's a fan of Mr. Waltz. I like to see how this story is going to be building. Stay tuned for this too. And thank you again for Megyn Kelly for putting it out there.
Do you feel, Tom, that he cut and ran, that he abandoned the unit?
Absolutely. I look back on what took place then. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I just happened to get out and then a week later the paper came out and the warning order came out and I just happened to time it just right and I knew that was going to happen. I mean, the warning order was already out. Everybody knew they were going, and I don't know if he's never responded why to anybody really, except that, well, I had to quit to run for Congress, which is a lie, like a lot of the other one, a lot of the lies he tells. I mean, but he basically said that. But I don't know if he was a coward when he originally did it, or if he felt, well, I'm in over my head. If I go there, I'm going to get people killed, or maybe deep down he felt I'm incompetent. I mean, you can't talk your way out of somebody shooting at you in a scenario like that. And he's very good at talking and doing that. I mean, I got to give him credit there. He loves hearing himself talk. But I don't know, and on the end of it, I think the reason he quit was political, because it was, back then, one side was it was George Bush's war, and it was an unjust war, and why were we there, and all this stuff, when it was like, and I think the bottom line is maybe it's all of the above. Maybe there is some cowardice in there too, but that was the thing. It was like we were there, and I was at a huge bunker complex where there was bunkers that were blown all to pieces, but then there were some that were locked yet. And told the EOD, explosive ordnance disposal guy, I said, well, maybe there's weapons of mass destruction in there. And he said, well, I ain't open up. He said, I got enough work to do cleaning all these rounds that are laying all over the desert out. And it was like, well, where's the media when it comes to this? I mean, they didn't show any of that, but I mean, there was all kinds of possibilities that there was more there than anybody said. But, everything got skewed then, and, it was like an unjust thing. And I think that's the bottom line. But yeah, he literally, when I looked into, the Star Tribune reporter I talked to way back when, he actually said, well, isn't that treason? And I said, well, treason is probably one level over and above what he did. I said, because that's selling the country out to another nation. If you're a double agent spy or something, I mean, that's one thing. But, he is a traitor, because a traitor is basically a person who betrays a country. And that is what he did. And then I got thinking about it, about like that Bergdahl guy that just walked away from his unit in Afghanistan. And it was like, that literally is what Tim Walz did. He is a deserter too.
So that is really interesting. So he is saying he is a traitor. I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was last year, guy in China, African American. I guess he was with the military, and he decided to run and desert his country. And people were saying maybe he had mental health issues. I mean, who goes to another country that's worse than the country that you're in? So I remember last year, and then the country was trying to get him back. I can't remember if they got him back or not, our country. But he is pretty much saying that guy was a deserter. And with Waltz, he almost did the same thing. He's literally calling Waltz a traitor. But he's saying the media has not covered this story. So I would like to get him on my show. I'm going to try so we can talk about this, both sides of the story. Everybody's, innocent till proven guilty. But you don't think that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump may see Megyn Kelly's show and they may say, okay, you know what? Trump, you weren't in the military, but Vance says, I was. And how dare this guy say that he was a military boy when he left his squad? The squad feels that he left it. Part of them feels that he left it. Was that true? If it isn't true, get on to 60 Minutes. Do it before they come after you. All right? People seem to love you. Okay? Don't have your love be tainted. Because if you taint this, and military people out here, and they're fighting for their country, and they think that any of this is true, you won't have that military. So, did you leave because you wanted to get into politics and make more of a difference? Explain that to the people. And I know people are going to be coming after you soon, and maybe the mainstream media won't, but I know people like Megyn Kelly will. You're watching Keeping It Honest. Yours truly, Anthony Parker. She has on her show a military vet who felt that presidential vice president pick, Tim Waltz, abandon his fellow National Guardsmen?
Well, it's a different version of it, but a soldier who leaves or runs away from service or duty with the intention of never returning. That is exactly what he did.
The ability to
Wow.
provide for your family has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years, as you know. When you go shopping,
So
you're getting less,
there
but
you
spending the
go.
same.
Keeping it honest, yours truly, Anthony Parker. You have any questions or comments? You can email yours truly, parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. You can text me, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. Let me know what you thought about this story. Megyn Kelly, boy, journalistic. She took a lot of flack, too, from the things that she's done over the years. Very opinionated, but she tends to get some interesting stories. And let me know if you believe that story or not, what you just heard. Military vet accuses the vice presidential candidate, Tim Waltz, of being a traitor, and he abandoned his squad, supposedly. So hopefully we can do a follow-up on that, but let me know what you think of that story, too. We try to do, like I said, things in Parker Twist. We get the left side, we get the right side. We let you decide. You may not like what you see or hear, but at least we've given you the truth. We're doing more of these type shows, live shows, short shows, long shows. Go to our Patreon page. That page, as you get on there, it's like a PBS, and it's like a fundraiser, and you contribute. We have 3 tiers. So what you like to do to keep us going, to continue to keep us going, as we grow, you grow. As you grow, we grow. Thank you again for texting, communicating with me with the phone. I love it. We have a nice thread of people going on. Like button, share button, subscribe button. Keep us growing. We are growing really crazy big, you know. So I thank you for that. Tell your friends. Anybody, anything you want to see on the show, here on the show, let us know. We do a lot of controversial topics, but we try to put them in a Parker twist. There we go, Parker twist. So tell your friends. So I'm Anthony Parker. Hope you enjoyed this particular episode. Let me know. I enjoyed doing it. Keep your head up. Never look down. Always believe in yourself, and therein will lie your answer. Again, I thank Megyn Kelly for having that guy on the show so we could discuss this in a cold watch. It was like a cold watch viewing party as she talked to that guy. This election is going to get crazy. The debates between Vance and between Waltz, they're going to be crazy. But remember, we're small, but you've heard it here first. If you didn't see Kelly's, you saw Parker's. We will talk again, and of course, God bless.